Updating tonight's top stories, Coordinating Minister for National Security Shanmugam says Singapore is under cyber attack. The sophisticated group behind the attack is known as UNC 3886. In light of the current attack, Minister Shanmugam has called for Singapore to strengthen its cyber defences, adding that authorities will be updating the Cybersecurity Act to get more powers in order to deal with such threats. And for more on the foreign cyber threats that Singapore faces and how businesses and individuals can safeguard against them, we're joined by Adam Peckman, Global Head of Cyber Consulting and Head of Cyber Solutions in Asia Pacific at Aon. We also have Ken Soh, Chair of SGTech Cybersecurity Chapter. A very good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio tonight. So for a start, how exposed is Singapore to today to sophisticated foreign cyber threats? And are we doing enough to stay afloat? Mr. Peckman, let's perhaps start with you.
Well, unfortunately, I think we're seeing that play out. Singapore is a leading economy in the region, and because of that, disproportionately exposed to some of these geostrategically motivated attacks. Part of the reason attacks were up last year by 29% was because 63% of these nation-state-backed attacks are occurring within this region, and they're all for the reasons that I think you've spelled out earlier tonight, which is of a geostrategic nature. It's to harm rivals. It's for industrial espionage. So Singapore is really, a target for this type of campaign that we're seeing at the moment.
Mr. Soh, what about you? What about businesses? Just how vulnerable are they?
Sure. As in any businesses in the world, I think certainly they are vulnerable. Whether it is enough that they have done, I would say it's never enough. Not because that you have to do so much of measures, but it is an ongoing dynamic landscape. And every day is different, where you can see that in the world, estimated there are almost like 500,000 new viruses coming out every day. And there are about near 200 APT groups, and many things are evolving. So it's hard to say whether it's enough. My view is to stay coordinated. Nationwide, public-private partnership, which we always advocate. We can share more later.
But what exactly are they doing to keep up with these changes, these evolving developments?
So the perspective we always adopt is, and we always advise, is basically people-process technologies. So we need to be very proactive. We need to keep up to the trend and also be updated in technologies, especially. The people education is also important. The regulation portion is also important. And that means that PPP portion becomes so important.
Right.
There are a lot of initiatives already we can see that CSA has been driving. I have the privilege to co-chair the Cybersecurity Assurance Alliance, whereby there are actually private sector people, entities, as well as the public sector. I think this is a very good initiative, and for that it has been there for since almost 20 years already.
Sure.
And this has been very helpful, I think.
If we were to look at these cyber threats, broadly speaking, they come from three different kinds of groups, but focusing on advanced persistent threats, Mr. Peckman, how do they exploit systems differently compared to the everyday hackers or ransomware gangs? What makes them so hard to detect?
Probably three ways you can think about the difference. One is just the objectives. They're typically geostrategic in nature, as we were talking about before. It's to facilitate grey zone tactics. It's for industrial espionage. It's to destabilise and disrupt a rival economy. So firstly in the objectives. Second, it's in the timeline. You've talked about ransomware gangs and others. Often there's an immediate financial goal associated with what those gangs are trying to do. It's a smash and grab. They want to capitalise on the opportunity presented to them and monetize that. With APTs, they've got a longer time horizon that they're looking toward. It's strategic in nature. They're also much more well-resourced. So combining those three things, they will spend an immense amount of time doing the intelligence gathering, the research to first get into a system. And then once in, they will spend a lot of time making sure that they're covering their tracks to not be detected. But if they are detected, create enough backdoors, enough ways to get back into the system. So if they are kicked out, they can come back in and facilitate whatever objective that is in the long time horizon.
And critical infrastructure seems to be a prime target for attackers, right? Mr. Soh, are Singapore businesses doing enough to harden their defenses, or are there weak links here?
Sure. As I mentioned just now, I think it's very hard to say that whether it's enough. In my view, it's always not enough because it's evolving. So if you look at the attack vectors, like what Adam mentioned just now, a lot are into the CII, critical infrastructure, and that is mostly state-level sponsored. Whereas for business-wise, a lot are still having like incidents of ransomware and various kind of malware attacks, where APT has been there for some time, and from time to time there were variants of APT that we can see in the businesses. So I think a lot are coming from the mindset of the businesses as well, to protect better, to have a hygiene layer, to make it actually well protected in a way. But there's no 100%.
Okay.
Usually.
Okay, before we go on, let's have a look at recent cyber incidents. Cybersecurity threats are growing rapidly, especially in Asia Pacific. Now, a new report by professional services firm Aon is proposing businesses to consider obtaining cyber risk insurance. The report cited the Council on Foreign Relations, saying that 63% of all suspected nation-state-sponsored cyber operations originated in Asia Pacific. Now, cyber incidents are also occurring more frequently, with a 29% increase on year and 134% rise in total from 2020 to 2024. Now, AI is a driving force for cyber risks. There were more victims of AI-driven deepfake attacks, with a 53% rise in such incidents on year. Insurers are also seeing more cyber-related insurance claims, with a 22% increase in 2024. Companies are also susceptible. Malware and ransomware attacks could cause damage to reputation, as affected companies saw their average shareholder value fall by 27%. However, most firms still do not have cyber insurance, with a take-up rate of only 6% in APAC. So, Mr. Peckman, as we see there, more businesses are encouraged to obtain cyber risk insurance. So what exactly does this insurance cover? And is it keeping pace with the scale and the frequency of attacks we are now seeing across the region?
Well, look, cyber insurance seeks to indemnify a company against both those first-party costs. So if you think about that, that's everything that a company would have to pay out of pocket: forensic advice, legal advice, various firms that are associated with helping with the remediation of an event. It can cover the direct financial loss from having a cyber attack, but it also covers the third-party losses. So your obligations or liabilities to damaged third parties. Whether it's keeping up to the pace of cyber incidents, we see about $1 trillion in cybercrime losses in Asia Pacific. The majority of that is still not covered by insurance because of the take-up rate by companies. And so if you think there, it's what we would call a insurance protection gap. Companies are paying themselves for those losses, and that money could have otherwise been allocated to innovation, to new technology. So that is not a favourable outcome for many companies or many economies like Singapore. So we are encouraging more companies to take up, cyber insurance, to make that a much more favourable position for them.
So what's holding these companies back from taking up the cybersecurity insurance, and how is SGTech working to change that, to turn around those numbers?
Sure. I think if you look at cyber insurance, it's not a substitute for cyber protection. It's post-event. And if we look back during the lockdown period where cyber attacks start to increase tremendously, that period of time, you can see a lot of cyber protection insurance actually escalated. The premium has raised a lot. Some even raised by 2 to 3 times, where this could be a hindrance. So from SGTech perspective, we tend to see this from a more holistic approach to cyber protection, not just insurance. So we have outreach, we have various sharing, and also we have papers that we publish For example, the latest one we have like Cyber for AI papers, which is driven by the SGTech Cybersecurity work group on that, and it was launched recently. Yeah.
Aside to this, AI-powered deepfakes, that's also on the rise, Mr. Peckman. Do we have the detection capabilities to keep up, or are we playing catch-up?
Well, look, you would have seen just from the report we were just showcasing then, we've seen 233% uptick in claims associated with social engineering events, which is powered by deepfakes. So clearly, this is getting well ahead of where companies are at the moment. To the point made, this isn't going to be solved simply by layering more technical controls on the organisation. That is one part of it. Companies still need to invest in their technical posture. That needs to be matched with how management teams think about coordinating the response to a cyber event. We saw earlier that companies can lose on average 27% of market cap associated with a cyber event. So it is a management, it is a business risk, it's not a technical risk. And then obviously as well, think about what is the role of risk capital there to offset the impact directly on the balance sheet. I think those three things encompass cyber resilience and not just one lens.
Do you see the landscape changing in the years to come?
Oh, I think we've just in the small amount of time that the bad actors have got AI technology into their hands and have accelerated to market some of these campaigns, I think that's demonstrative of, how technology is going to keep pushing the envelope and how companies will still need to keep up with it. Part of the reason why we encourage cyber insurance adoption is because, companies need to think about how do they balance all of their needs, their investment needs, alongside how do they balance the balance sheet risk as well.
But I have to ask this though, how do companies get started with signing up for these insurance plans?
Well, part of the reason I think that the uptake is so low is that when we ask companies what decision making goes into the yes or no around cyber insurance, only 14% are using any type of financial risk quantification to understand what their needs are. So clearly there is a decision making gap there that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Aon have spent $1 billion in developing analytics tools as part of our 3x3 strategy, and part of that is to overcome this insurance protection gap by giving companies more analytics tools to really understand better what is the role of risk capital to provide protection against this. So when management teams have more analytics available, we see the protection gap close. So I think that's part of what needs to be informed here.
And Mr. Soh, earlier you were talking about people, process and technology, right? Yes. And with these AI threats evolving so fast, what concrete steps can businesses and everyday users take to build real cyber resilience and to close on these gaps?
It's getting more challenging because today I've seen so many cases where you look at deepfake, it is so real, right? If you look at some of the surveys, especially recently we have in CSAA, we have done a survey whereby most people feel that they are confident that they can differentiate whether it's real or fake. But when they conducted a test, actually the ability of people to actually identify whether it's fake or real is very low. So the capability is not there, but they are overconfident that they can feel that this is fake or real. So I think this will be a serious concern going forward. Cases are already happening and more will come. So how to mitigate this? We can't run away from people process technology. And we have to level out this portion, educating people and be very mindful of what you see may not be what you get anymore going forward.
All right. Appreciate your insights tonight. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming in. That was Adam Peckman from Aon and Ken Soh from SGTech. Thank you so much.